Good day, it is Althea from the Bible in 1 Year. Today we spend time in Psalm 65, God's abundant favor. The opening statement of this psalm read, a psalm of David, a song. This means that it is a lyrical poem, a psalm that may be recited or sung. There is a couple of points that David understood and wanted to communicate, but also felt the need for the people to understand and to recite or to sing it. Verse 1 read, To you belongs silence and praise in Zion. In this passage, silence having the impression of submissive wonder or reverence for God and praise. To burst into loud act of worship expressing his admiration, respect and gratitude. We can come before the Lord with praise. Praise can be the height of worship, but sometimes the height of worship will be the silence before God. David also says, a vow shall be performed. Here in our silence before God, we will vow to God. And in verse 2, David says, You who hear prayer. Vows should always be taken seriously. Abram made a vow to God in Genesis 28 verse 18 to 22 and 31 verse 13. Job 22 verse 27 read, You will pray to him and he will hear you, and you will pay your vows. David was aware of his own transgressions. He wishes to be holy before God, but knows that sometimes sins get the better of him. In humbleness before God, he makes the point that God forgives him. This forgiveness of sin can only come through the sacrificial death of Christ, sent from God as a sacrificial lamb. Through the death of Christ, we become clean. Our sins are atoned for. God provided the sacrificial lamb, Jesus Christ, so that we can become worthy of God's presence, able to come before God in worship. In ancient Middle East hospitality culture, you were bound to protect and provide in all the needs of your guests. In verse 4, David points out the fact that the one whom God chooses and brings near to dwell in his courts are blessed. We need to understand that the sacrificial offer of the Lamb, Jesus Christ on the cross, came from God. God connects us with himself through the work done on the cross. We choose to accept the sacrificial offer, but being blessed has the idea of being filled with the goodness of God's presence, being invited into his house, under his protection and provision. In verses 5 to 10, David mentions that God created the earth and all of it, with his strength and power. He visits the earth and makes it overflows. He enriches it. He blesses its growth. He created and calmed the storms. God keeps the dawns and the sunsets, as well as the tumult of the people. The signs and evidence of God's presence is everywhere, and it reaches the ends of the earth. God, in his goodness, his hospitality, bounty, and security, are extended and made available to all whom, like David, recognize and understand and accept it. The sacrificial offer from God that connects us to him through the work done on the cross. From verse 11 to the end, David recognized God's abundance everywhere in nature. He describes how creation responds to the goodness of God. The pastures overflow, the meadows are clothed with flocks, and the valleys are covered with grain. Instead of fear to the sheer power of God, it responds with praises to God, shouting with beauty and abundance everywhere. Isaiah 55 verse 10 read, For as the rain and snow come down from heaven, and do not return there without watering the earth, making it bear and sprout, and providing seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so will my word be which goes out of my mouth. It will not return to me void, useless, without result, without accomplishing what I desire, and without succeeding in the matter for which I send it. We need to understand that we have the same reason to respond to God in praise, to accept everything that He offers, to let Him cultivate us, to let us grow and develop into a life that brings glory and honor to Him. May you be blessed. Goodbye.